Welcome back. We're jumping into our third conversation this morning, and it's all about effective workplace communication and emotional intelligence in the workplace. We have here with us this morning the managing director of Belize, and we have here with us Charlotte Neal to talk to us about it. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Sabrina. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Now, this is a very interesting conversation. Just earlier this week, we were talking about mental health in the workplace, and you know the direction of where that conversation would have gone. But now looking at emotional intelligence and effective workplace communication, I think that's one of those topics that no matter how many training you do, it's going to be like one of those muscles that you have to continuously work on. Yeah. Would you say that?
Most definitely. Emotional intelligence, communication, I've found it's a lifelong journey.
Yes.
There is no quick fix to that. There's not a workshop that just does just that. So you are so right in saying that.
Right. Well, let's talk about the importance then of recognizing why we should build on effective workplace communication first, and then how that ties into emotional intelligence.
Okay, wonderful. So we are, first of all, the Belize Institute for Service Excellence, Leadership and Research, and we've been in existence for a little over 5 years, and our vision is for inspired people who are serving with passion and excellence. Mm-hmm. First of all, to realize this vision, we realize that in dealing with workplace training, we have to unearth what are some of those issues that are affecting performance, productivity in the workplace. And through the years, we've discovered that the bedrock of a lot of the issues we're having in the workplace is communication.
Absolutely.
Communication. I've never found a workplace that says we have communication right. Well, we don't need have any issues in this area.
What do you mean by communication?
Okay, communication is loaded. It's a broad topic. At its very basic, it's understanding others. It's really trying to make sure that your message is heard, that is understood. And that sounds simple, right? I speak, you listen, we're done. No. There are so many barriers in between me speaking, you hearing. There is your perception. There is how you view me, whether you like me or don't like me, whether you think I should be the one telling you this.
Yes.
There is a lot going on. There's also me having my own issues that I brought to work today. And then here you are now, you come and you tell me something that just triggered me. Like I just said, you just rubbed me the wrong way.
It's like you're peeking in the windows of a lot of workplaces, Miss Neal.
I know, right?
What I've always said to employees and employers are like, your situation is not unique.
Absolutely.
These issues happen in every workplace. Why? My personal philosophy is that the workplace mirrors the society. Mm-hmm. And so whatever issues you're seeing in society, you're going to see them in the workplace. Why? The people you're working with and for, they come from the society.
Yes.
And so to get to the bottom of communication, instead of just going in and say, okay guys, you need to be actively listening, we say, what are some of those underlying issues? Mm-hmm. And so we put right there in the middle, we put emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And on one side we see communication, and then on the other side we put conflict. And we have discovered that emotional intelligence is highly correlated to how you deal with conflict and how you communicate. Because emotional intelligence says, I'm going to be more, I'm not going to be reactive. I'm going to respond, I'm not going to react. Emotional intelligence says, okay, let me hear what you have to say. I'm open to listen to your ideas.
Yes, listen to understand rather than
listen to
respond.
Understand. I'm not going to be judgmental and critical. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to jump to conclusion. And those are all soft skills that we have to build if we are going to communicate effectively. So we don't start at communication. We start at what are some of those foundational issues. And we find it goes back to emotional intelligence.
So is that to say then that communication is built on emotional intelligence?
I would not say, but the communication issues that we're having stem from emotional intelligence or the lack thereof. The reason I say this is because communication is relational, right? It's whenever you hear people say, I don't like people, or I prefer to work alone, what they're saying is, when I get with people, when I have to be in relationship with others, that's where my challenge comes in. Now, the reason I put emotional intelligence in the middle there, it's easy for us to say it's the other person who is the issue. I just not like that, this, that. But we hardly step back and look at what is our role in this whole issue. What did I bring to the table? What are those behaviors that I have to examine that's causing this communication issue that we're having, right? So while it's relational, it's also personal. Because now I have to examine me, the person, and that's where the hard work comes in. Who wants to examine? Best I blame you. It's you, Sabrina. You never listen. And so you hard to deal with. And then nobody's saying, well, maybe I don't want pain in the rear too, No, who says that? Nobody.
But how do you address that? Or I imagine perhaps you are hired by a company to address a very big issue of poor communication within a workplace, and it's exactly what you mentioned, but then you're forced to put together a series of workshops for individuals who are just trees that will not bend. How do you address that?
That's a tough one, and I'll tell you why. Any change at all starts with a willingness for you to examine self. And so self-awareness is the foundation. And so in a workshop with 40 people, it's very likely that 10 will walk away and say, this is alone foolishness. It's not make no sense. I don't mean the problem. My supervisor business here, right? There will be a lot of those. You will get those. And there will be those who come to you after the training and say, man, you're talking to me. That just resonated with me. I had that same issue, and man, I can see that. And they will say, I don't know what to do now because this was just a day, right? And that's where the hard work starts. And so we don't really advocate for one-off training because sometimes it's just opening the door for people to see, yes, this is what's going on. But then what next? What is the next step after that? So it's never 100% everybody will walk away and say yes.
So let's jump into emotional intelligence a bit. Let's break down what emotional intelligence is and how do we develop emotional intelligence.
Awesome. So at its very core, the definition for emotional intelligence is understanding behavior, your behavior and other people's behavior. And your goal after you've understand is to use this understanding and awareness to now be able to change these behavior patterns. Now, why is this so hard? It's deeply ingrained, right? If we're honest, when you look around your workplace, don't look around right now, guys, you would see that there are people from all aspects of life, all backgrounds, and you don't know what they're bringing. When I look at you, you look well-dressed, normal, you look excellent.
Oh, thank you.
But the reality that within that is so much that we have dealt with, so much that we've not unpacked.
Things that we're carrying.
Things that we're carrying, because nobody has it all together.
Yes.
But on the surface, right? I'm a co-worker, I'm smiling, but I'm one insult away from lose my cool. I'm a supervisor, and because I'm a supervisor, I'm expected to, be demure and all of that. But it's not what's happening. So these triggers at the very end of the day is what really causes these issues. But who does the unpacking? Right? We expect when people come to the work, they're sane, they're responsible, they're mature, they know how to deal with issues. Not quite so. And this is what we're finding in a lot of our workspaces, right? And this is where the hard work comes in, because you have to examine, unpack, and then you have to start doing the work.
Now, Ms. Neal, if this is not addressed, how does this affect the productivity of a workplace?
All right, so what are the signs of low emotional intelligence in workplaces? lots of conflict. People who don't listen. People who don't care about how their behavior affects other people. And we hear it all the time. People say, that's how I stand. Well, it's just how I stand. I mean that. Just deal with it. And so what we have is a lot of stressful undertakings. We have a lot of time wasted dealing with these little issues which we consider or we say are petty when it deviates from the productivity, right? We should be focused on our goals. How are we going to, but then we can't work as a team. We can't work together. We are pulling against each other. We're undermining each other. We're gossiping. These are some of the issues we're seeing. And I'm not saying that emotional intelligence is a fix all, but it is at the root of a lot of these issues because we're not examining ourselves. When somebody is highly emotional intelligent, you don't see some of these issues showing up because they're more thoughtful about their behavior and the impact of their behavior on others.
What's one exercise perhaps that you would implement in your workshops in this long journey of emotional intelligence development to kind of start that process? What's one exercise?
Okay, so the first thing you want to do is start with this self-awareness. The 4 quadrants, the first one is self-awareness. And so self-awareness says, I want to look at my behavior. And I want to look at my triggers, for example, because my triggers are going to give me insights into my behavior. And so first thing we ask people to do is to identify at least your top 2 triggers. What are those things that cause you to go from 0 to 100 in? Now the trigger is just the beginning because that trigger is indicative of something deeper. My trigger that I discovered early was when I'm in traffic. When I'm at the ATMs, my trigger is I realize I don't have any patience. I have little patience, and some people in the room would agree, right? And that's where I had to start. I had to start by idea. Why is it that you don't have any patience? And let's start working there. And so what was the result of my impatience? I was looking at others as the problem. You're driving too slow, you're moving too slow, you're in the way. Everything is an issue for you when you discover I don't have any patience. But then when you look at it from an EI lens, you realize the traffic is not the problem. You're the problem. Your impatience is the problem. Why are you hurrying to get from point A to point B? Why are you pushing everybody out of the way? You are the problem. And so coming face to face with that is an issue. It is hard to come face to face with you are the problem. Nobody wants to admit that they are the problem. In relationships, in workplace, it's just easier to blame somebody. So taking ownership of your behavior is where we start. And unless you're willing to do that, we can't really have a conversation.
And how do you find the person develops, changes after taking ownership?
They do, because then it's not an immediate overnight thing. When something happens, you will find, because remember, these are deeply ingrained behavior. Emotional intelligence is highly psychological. If you've been doing this for donkey's years the same way, and now you come face to face with that behavior and say, okay, I need to fix this. What's going to happen the next time this happens? More than likely, you'll go back to the learned behavior. But the awareness says, shucks, I reel up again. Shucks, I gone on bad again. And then that is going to encourage you to say, okay, no, I can't continue going like that. So you see people growing, and what you see the difference is in the behavior. You see people who are calmer. You see people who are not responding to every argument that they're invited to. You see people just saying, okay, no problem. And then you who are used to them exploding say, oh, you mean no problem? You sure you okay? You say, yeah, they're okay. And they want you to explode because that's what they're used to on your
They expect it.
Nope. This is how we see it's impacting when you are willing to do the work.
What about the idea that says, leave all your personal problems at the door? I don't care what issues you have in your personal life. work, and then you could pick that up when you left work and continue carrying that with you.
That would be wonderful. I jokingly say to supervisors, if I had the opportunity to do that, I wouldn't even leave it at my door. I'll get your address and leave it at your door.
Oh my God.
Because at the end of the day, if you think it's possible, then maybe I should be leaving it at your door. The reason for this is you cannot expect people to distance themselves from their issues that they're dealing with.
And
it's
from
not
their reality.
possible.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, there your problems are. Now, what we owe our employees is this. If you see there are people who are consistently having issues after issues, you have to have some mechanism in place to assist them. It doesn't mean that you have to take it on, right? I know in government, for example, there's an EAP, an employee
Yes.
assistance program. Some organizations bring in counselors, right? This is the reality. What I'm finding is there's a lot happening in the workplace we're not talking about. We're not talking about these issues. Our goal is to bring these issues to light and say, no, we have to address them. We can't be tiptoeing around these issues and just sweep them under the rug so that we appear unified. I see it a lot when we try to do team building activities with some organizations, and immediately walk in the room and you realize, okay,
There's something here.
there's something here. People won't sit here. No, I want to sit there. Can I work with that one? I don't. And then you say, okay, we have issues. We have issues. And if you leave them, they'll just fester. So communication is important, but it's not going to stand alone. You have to get to the root of what are some of these issues.
This is clearly something that you have a lot of experience in identifying, Ms. Neal, and also in how to assist organizations or workplaces in how to fix. I know that you provide a workshop for persons that might be intrigued in wanting to get help to fix the workplace dysfunction, I guess we can say. What exactly would you provide to persons interested?
Okay, so for this we have a workshop called Effective Workplace Communication, and we, like I said, we marry emotional intelligence, communication, and conflict, and we paint that picture of how that happens. There's also a lot of working sessions in which you actually do the work. There are reflective activities, and then you leave from there with an action plan. And a lot of that is individual. We also try to do some team building activities for employees. We've been privileged to go into a lot of organizations, and we've found that it works. We work a lot with the teachers as well, because we're saying if you can cut some of these issues at the very early age, before they're deeply embedded, before we are all messed up with the kids that are younger, it's going to help a lot.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about some of the upcoming trainings and sessions that you have.
Awesome. So apart from what organizations ask us to do, we from time to time, at least 3 times for the year, organize these sessions that cater for individuals who outside of their organization would like to engage in professional development. Small organizations who can't do a training because it's only 3 or 4 of them, or for whatever reason it's only 1 person. And so we have a training. We have 2 coming up actually. One of my personal passionate favorite is the one on the 29th of October, and it's called Career Guidance and Coaching. And as we go around, we've been seeing more and more of people who are not satisfied with where they are in work, in life, etc., who've been in positions for years and years and they're not seeing another path. And so we try to help them to set goals. Where is it they're going? One of the most powerful questions that we ask is, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? And let's put a plan together as to how you're going to get there. We also help people to break some of those barriers where they're doubting themselves, their ability, where they're stuck in a cycle where they're not comfortable with change, making those quantum leaps. It's really empowering the mind to say, because it starts in the mind. If I want to move and I say, oh, I can't move, chances are I'm not going to move.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it starts here, and then we find that's so empowering.
This is the event at IT Vet.
IT Vet on the 29th of October. We still have spaces, about 10 spaces are left only. We're only doing 25 because we want to make it effective. You can register with us again. You can hit us up at info@bzlearn.com or 670-9564 is our office number. We also have another workshop, IT Vet as well. It's the 1st of November. And this one caters to managers and supervisors, especially HR personnel who are asking for, resources to assist them in managing what we call the diverse workforce. And this looks at, the organizational culture. It looks at diversity and inclusion. It looks at the age gap, the generational gap. Things like unconscious biases, and those are some of the issues that are affecting the workplace. We pride ourselves in trying to bring modern, new material. We're not talking about old stuff from 1920s. It's like what's relevant for today's workplace, and people can relate and they can move from there and say, I can implement this. This is the reality for my workplace.
This has been a wonderful conversation, Ms. Neal. Thank you so much for giving even us a refresher. I know that we ourselves are constantly working on ways that we can be better work pairs, and I think one of the points that really stuck out to me in the conversation that we had this morning is the fact that aside from being employees of a particular organization, we represent society, which means that we are all humans struggling with the same things. So workplace communication also benefits our personal communication, our personal relationships, our friendships, our romantic relationships, our family relationships. So I think that paying for this service will not only impact how you are on the job, but also in your personal life as well.
Absolutely. When I talk about relationships, I like to tell my trainees, we're not just talking about relationship with babes. We're talking about your workplace. We're talking about your family relationships. And you see it improving when you're able to step back and look at it from an emotional intelligence lens, when you are able to understand people and meet them where they are. And trust me, I've struggled with this for a long time. And so I've seen the difference that emotional intelligence makes. It shows up in your behavior when you're able to say, I used to do this, and now I am doing this.
Excellent.
That's progress.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. And remember, sign up for our workshop, info@bzlearn.com, 670-9564. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. And as you mentioned, it's $100 for the session. And
that's the 29th,
The 29th.
at IT Vet. And then there's the November 1st event at IT Vet as well for managers. So
Yes.
two excellent events
includes
coming up.
lunch.
And it
it
includes
lunch, right? What an incentive.
Okay.
All right, so with that, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we have the Belize Film Festival, representatives from the Belize Film Festival joining us on set and via Zoom to speak about that upcoming event. It's an annual event that we always look forward to, especially here at Channel 5. And we know that there's some amazing producers, videographers, scriptwriters out there as well that are involved in this event. And so we're going to have a brief conversation on it when we return, and then we'll wrap up the show.